I used to hate stereotypes. I hated them because I didn't really understand them. Was I supposed to fulfill these generalized expectations that people had of my looks, my ability, and my character? I didn't really understand. I often heard things like, "You play basketball, but you're not very tall." Or, "You're German? I thought Germans were these serious people, but you're actually quite funny." Anyways, later on, I learned that putting people into boxes and thinking in stereotypes is actually something very normal. As humans, we simplify and we categorize objects, ideas, people, including ourselves, into groups. We do so in order to make sense of our physical, but also our social environment. And we can belong to many different groups. It just depends which group we identify with. For example, I'm a millennial, I'm a business graduate, and I identify as female. What we also do is we internalize the norms and behavior that we believe our group has. So it's pretty much a self-fulfilling prophecy. We act the way we think we're supposed to act. In my case, I felt less and less like a basketball player, and more like a business student. So much so that my style of clothing changed from sneakers to t-shirt to pretty much this. Anyways, but I'm here today to talk to you about the group of socio-economic class, or social class. So in society, we rank people according to their job status, their economic status, and also their, their level of education. This all makes up the social status of a person. We have the upper class, which are usually the extremely wealthy 1 or 2%. Then we have the middle class, which are often like white-collar professionals, academics, which learn significantly above the poverty line. And then we have the lower class, also called working class, which are usually blue-collar workers that have low-paying jobs and that don't usually require a university degree. So I bet most of you here can quite quickly say what social class they belong to. Okay, I see some people nodding. Well, so in my case, today I can say I belong to the middle class. But when I was little, I felt somewhere in between lower and middle class. And let me explain to you a little bit why. So up until the divorce, my parents had a very comfortable life. They had their own dental practice. My mom is a dental assistant, and my dad is a dentist. After the divorce, my dad continued the practice, and my mom took on a low-paying dental assistant job. Although she received some money for the divorce, after some years she just fell into a downward spiral of debt. So at age 14, we moved into a 2-room subsidized apartment for low-income families, where I had my own room, but my mom slept on the couch. And I remember feeling and seeing her struggles on a daily basis. My dad always provided for me everything that my mother couldn't. But seeing the differences in opportunities, hardships, and also lifestyle made me realize that I had to make the best out of the opportunities that I was given. So I studied business administration, actually here in Mannheim. And I also, later on, went to a private business school for my master's, thanks to my dad. As a result, I got a great job, and I was able to manifest myself in the middle class. And I had the privilege to do so. And I say privilege now, in retrospect, because when I first started my job, I would have probably said it was because I made it, because I was so hardworking and ambitious. But there are lots of hardworking and ambitious people out there. Yet in Germany, only 20% of working-class high school graduates start university. For academic households, this number is at 75%. So more than 3 times as much. And this can have many different reasons. It can be because of lack of financial, but also often emotional support from the family. It can be because of lack of self-belief and role models, or because there are certain hardships that are just more common in low-income communities. Especially in Western society, we attribute success and failure rather to the individual's character and capabilities than the environment. And especially the upper and middle class, they get this feeling of superiority, while the lower class feels ashamed and inferior. But both classes, surprisingly, all of them, accept this societal belief. In other words, somebody that did not graduate high school or university was just not that ambitious, not that hardworking, not that disciplined, or just not that smart, right? Otherwise they would have made it. And you know what thinking like this is called? It's called classism. Classism is the differential treatment and the systematic assignment of worth and ability of a person or group based on their social class or their perceived social class. So it's discrimination based on socio-economic class. Our society isn't there. We still have the upper class and middle class that hold the power and control, accumulating wealth generation after generation, while the working class is struggling to get by or even become educated. I mean, the two classes, they don't even mix. We're so unaware of it because we live in our own separate bubbles. In the manufacturing industry, however, you can see that class divide on a daily basis. When I started as a trainee, and I first met the manufacturing and logistics workers, I instantly knew I belonged. So much so that I started as a team leader in manufacturing. And during that time, I made 3 observations that I would like to share with you. The first thing that struck me was that only in manufacturing you were able to lead 25 to 30 people after 2 years of work experience. None of my fellow marketing and finance trainees were able to do that, even up until today. Why? Because of classism. I often heard managers say things like, they're just workers, they know what to do, just execute. I mean, talking to them twice a year is more than enough. We would never do that with highly educated people. But in the manufacturing industry, it's just widely accepted. The second observation that I made was a general lack of factory workers that had made it into analyst, senior, or management positions. I mean, I already hear the objections. They don't want those positions, that's clear. Really, just like women don't want to become CEOs, I mean, it's the same issue. We have a lack of role models and a lack of opportunities. Only very few make it into team leader or process engineer roles, and not any further. And yes, obviously there are some that don't want those positions. Just like there are some women that don't want to become CEOs. But we can't assume that no one does. And the second objection that I usually get is, oh, they didn't study, they don't have what it takes, they don't have the capabilities. Really. Because the best managers are usually the nerdy engineers who don't know how to talk to people. I mean, come on, I'm sorry, I know this is another stereotype, but you get my point. We all know highly educated managers who should have never been made managers. Our education system does not teach us how to lead people. We're only now starting to learn the importance of leadership and people skills. And additionally, in our Western society, it is so ingrained that education or degree is an undeniable proof of intelligence. But our education system isn't fair either. Because like Albert Einstein said, everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will believe its whole life that it was stupid. And I'm not saying that education is useless. I mean, we accumulate lots of knowledge, and we also learn certain soft skills on the way. but we most importantly learn how to learn. Something that workers haven't done in a very long time. Partially because they didn't have to, they've been doing the same job for 20 years. But also because we haven't invested or trained them. Only now companies are starting to realize that they need to invest in their workers because of the technological changes. So in summary, we don't train them, we don't promote or hire them, and we pretty much don't give them any attention. Why? Because of classism. And the third and most important observation that I made was the general lack of understanding, respect, and trust that there was between management and workers. It was creating a hostile environment of power struggles, of lack of communication, and of lack of collaboration. And he would obviously say that this is extremely harmful to any company's success. So why are we doing this? Well, again, because of classism. Let me explain this one. So, as I said, I was a business student and not an engineering student. So when I came to the manufacturing industry, I was missing some technological knowledge. So I needed my workers' expertise. So I asked lots of questions, I asked them for their opinion, and I listened carefully. And on the way, I got really good relationships with my workers. But when it came to certain arguments, I was still one of the evil managers. And I didn't understand it, it really hurt. How could they not see that I was trying to make a difference and that I could empathize with them? Well, later on I learned there's something else that we as humans do subconsciously. We compare us, our group, to them, the other group. And in doing so, we overestimate the similarities that each group has. So that's when you start hearing things like, oh, they're all the same. And at the same time, we also exaggerate the differences between the groups. So it turns out classism goes both ways. And this culture and feeling of us versus them is very prevalent in the manufacturing industry, especially because there are lots of differences between blue and white collar workers. I mean, let's just talk about the names and the clothing. Blue, white collar worker. And then you have also the physical distance. I mean, you have people working in office or home office now and on the shop floor. Then you have the level of education and sometimes even speak different languages, which creates a further divide. And the tasks are completely different. Like I said, the workers are just there to execute, and managers and engineers are there to think. They don't even listen to their workers for their opinion or their ideas. And at the same time, the workers also don't share them proactively. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that I explained to you earlier. If you're expected to leave your brain at home, no problem. And then you also have a clear organizational hierarchy where blue-collar workers are just seen as these easily replaceable resources of little value. And lastly, you have the salary discrepancies which influence motivation. I mean, yeah, most, not all of them, workers are still motivated by money in order to gain financial stability, while more white-collar workers strive for personal growth. No wonder the two parties don't understand each other. They seem to have absolutely nothing in common. But the problem of classism isn't just that it isn't fair. Yes, that should be reason enough. But that it's extremely harmful to organizations. We have an industry with a class divide that is causing lack of communication, lack of collaboration, and a lack of socioeconomic diversity in decision-making positions. And as if this wasn't bad enough, we now add the fourth industrial revolution, the global labor shortage, and the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic to the equation. And what you get is a mid-sized wave of digitalization, automation, and artificial intelligence that has turned due to COVID and has accelerated into a huge tsunami. This talk is a wake-up call because we need everyone everyone, not just the middle class and the higher class and the technologically savvy generation Y and Z to make it through this transformation. We need everyone. The World Economic Forum estimates that 1/3 of jobs are at risk of automation within the next decade. Yes, it's mostly low-skilled jobs that will cease to exist, but they also say that about the same amount of jobs, or if not more, will be created. They just have a completely different skill set. So that means that we have more than 1 billion people that need to be reskilled by 2030. And then we have workers who haven't learned anything new in the last 20 to 30 years. I mean, that will not be easy. But what other choice do we have if we also have a global labor shortage? Reports say that already now 40% of employers have problems filling their positions. I mean, we can't just hire new people. There aren't enough or they don't have the right skills. And let's be honest, and you probably might agree, the Generation Z does not want to work in an organizational culture that is ruled by power, ego, and control. And most manufacturing companies still operate that way. So yeah, we need each other. Companies that do not understand that classism is harming them will not make it through. They will not listen to their workers who are the operational experts of the processes that need to be automated. If the workers are not involved in the transformation, you either get solutions that will not be used because the workers resist the change, or you get solutions that are not adopted to or suited for the processes of the company, because managers and engineers do not know it all. The knowledge holders are the workers. And as a consequence, you have a manufacturing company throwing out tons of money out the window, slowing down their transformation process, losing competitiveness, and ultimately they will be swallowed up by the tsunami of the fourth industrial revolution, together with all of their workers, white or blue collar alike, and all because of classism. And now, I was only talking about the manufacturing industry. There are many other industries, so-called frontline industries, where the exact same thing is happening. I'm talking about transportation, healthcare, construction, and even the education sector. And what many people don't know is that these industries make up 80% of our global workforce. And yes, some are CEOs and architects and doctors, but the majority of the 80% are frontline workers. They're nurses, they're truck and Uber drivers, they're factory and logistics workers, they're supermarket cashiers, and they're cleaning personnel. The same people that could not do home office during the pandemic, that had to go to work every single day, making sure that our society still functions while they were risking their lives. And yes, we clapped for them for a little while, said, thank you, hashtag frontline heroes, but we seem to have again forgotten how important they are. And they are the majority. We discriminate against the majority. We talk about discrimination based on race, gender, religion, and other forms, but we don't talk about classism. When I came up with the title of this talk, I had friends telling me that I shouldn't use the word classism because they didn't know what it was. But to me, this is precisely the problem. This topic of classism is so broad that we have forgotten to see it. So therefore, I want to add classism to the agenda, to the diversity and inclusion agenda of all of the organizations and of our society. To me, this is the starting point. Organizations need to raise awareness about classism and about unconscious bias. They need to stop treating frontline workers like second-class citizens. It's time to listen and to see both perspectives and bring them together. One of the few good things of the COVID-19 pandemic is that during crisis, people of all backgrounds come together. We've seen it with war, we've seen it with natural catastrophes. Everyone has been in lockdown at some point. Some have lost family, friends, or know somebody who did. We are all emotionally exhausted no matter what class we belong to. COVID-19 has left scars worldwide, and those scars need to remind us that what unites us is being human. So I realized that what connected me to my workers was taking off the manager's mask and talking to them on a human-to-human level. That was the only thing how I could connect to them, just like this. And yes, creating awareness and enabling human collaboration will help companies survive the fourth industrial revolution together. But if you want to come out on top and gain a competitive advantage, we need to change the leadership culture in frontline industries entirely. Like a famous quote says, if a flower doesn't bloom, you change the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So therefore, frontline organizations, managers, and technology providers need to become the frontline sidekicks of our frontline heroes. A sidekick is a secondary character that helps the main character achieve a goal, overcome an enemy, or grow through personal development. We need to put our frontline workers at the center and empower them by giving them the technological, the functional, and the emotional support in order to unlock their full potential, their superpowers. And remember, a sidekick is also a hero. It's just that we're Robin instead of Batman. Today, I still hate stereotypes, but I know that I don't have to fulfill these stereotypical expectations that people have of me. So, as my last words, I want to talk to the frontline workers. I see you, I value you, I believe in you. Thank you for all your hard work, and don't let anyone tell you who you can and cannot be. You are the world's heroes. Thank you.